Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Welcome back, friends. Today we're sitting in the green room of a place down in Madison. I drove through a storm where I was wondering if I was actually going to get here. The rain was so bad. I thought it was going to be a really mellow drive down to hang out with somebody that I met backstage briefly over at Blue Ox. We kept in contact. It's been about, 4 or 5 months, and here we are. Welcome to the show, Daniel Donato.
Thank you so much.
Dude, thanks for coming here.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad we made it work. We kind of pulled up at the same spot, didn't even know where to go, and kind of threw all this together last second, but I'm glad that it worked.
It's always last second. It's always intuitively driven, and there's always a reflex of what you're just going to do that happens, and that's what all this is about. What I love is that the reverential silence they usually have for a podcast has been soiled by the realities of the tour right now. You know?
But it gives a sense of feel of where we're at right now, because otherwise it's like, whoa, we're just in some back room, but it's because this is before a performance.
This is before our second to last show of a 30-day tour, and these last 2 shows are sold out in advance, and I think it's like out of 7 shows that have sold out. So it's like almost a third of the shows.
Wow.
Which is great.
Yeah. Where's the last show at?
Tomorrow is in St. Paul.
And then you're driving down, and then you're driving back to Nashville, because you're from Nashville.
Yep, drive home to Nashville.
Okay, so I'll ask the usual question I ask, which is, in your own words, who are you and what are you passionate about?
I'm very passionate about music and cosmic country in my family. And a lot of the values that are kind of centered at the core of all existence that are found in all things. The way, if you will, as above, so below. All is mind, patience, persistence, positivity. These kinds of truths that are archetypally relevant and found within any medium, whether it's creative or non-creative, like discipline and
self-awareness, higher consciousness, a lot of that type of stuff. You must read a lot.
I'd like to read when I'm not on tour. I can't read on tour.
You can't read when you're driving?
I can't read when in motion, and I can't really listen to audiobooks and absorb information in the same way.
Sure. What do you do then when you're in the back seat of the van when they're driving for a long distance?
I listen to a lot of music and sleep.
You can sleep while you're in the van?
I could sleep and I can listen to podcasts.
Can you sleep when you fly too?
Yeah, I could sleep anywhere now. After this year, I could sleep anywhere, because I've done more physical movement and focus this year than I've ever done in any year of my 27 years of living, that I think at least.
Yeah.
And I can sleep anywhere now because I'm constantly tired.
Well, I'm jealous because I've flown all the way to Thailand and not slept, and just gotten disgustingly sick while I'm sitting on a plane for 16 hours. But anyways, I want to know about your music. So Cosmic Country, even when I heard it, because like I said, we met at Blue Ox, and I was like, this is a bluegrass festival, but Cosmic Country is not bluegrass. But Blue Ox is kind of a whole bunch of different things. What exactly is Cosmic Country? Is that your creation?
I don't think it is. Graham Parsons coined it, and then it's kind of more like a frequency. He called his music cosmic American music. Country music, I think, is not even innately American, but it is at its roots. But its roots are, found in Irish music and Scottish music, and the old reels and jigs. But bluegrass is not cosmic country, but cosmic country is not bluegrass, because there's a lot of bluegrass influence in there.
Yeah.
Cosmic country is it's a kind of a tale as old as time, really. It's a melding of a lot of influences that get thrown together in an ambitious way that is fueled for a creative enterprise, that is centered at being a transcendent experience that has danceable rhythms, inclusive songs, and enchanting melodies and lyrics. And we meld old and new genres together to create a celebratory time that only happens in that one place in space and time. And Cosmic Country is it's my life project.
Yeah, well, I mean, your whole crew, when you see them on stage, it's not like what you play on Spotify, which I listened to for a long time driving here, of your music. It's different at every single show, right?
Yeah.
How do you meld and actually get like vibes with the other performers on your team? How do you guys even know where you're going throughout a song when you start going in one direction? They just match your kind of rhythm to see where you're going, or what happens?
To know where you're going and to be intentionally wandering are two different things. And so on some songs we know where we're going. But some songs we intentionally wander, and it's like Tolkien said, "Not all who wander are lost." And it's true. So we play a lot and we rehearse a lot. When we're not playing on the road, we rehearse all the time. I make sure that we get our R&D time in. And so there's the thing about, like a dialogical conversation of any kind, whether it's through the form of words like you and I are having, which is a privilege right now.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then there's the dialogical conversation of music, and that happening on stage between members, and then you get the most cosmic influence of them all, which is when you get a room full of people, and you're all in a Nikola Tesla alternate current way. You are creating music. Because that energy is the very source of which the music comes from, right? And so everyone who's in the room that is there with their conscious energy or unconscious, all of the energies, that is informing the music. And that's such a wild thing.
Which one have you felt stronger vibes from? Is it from smaller, more intimate shows where you're in a closed building where it's like packed as full as it can possibly get, or when you're at a stadium type situation like Blue Ox where it's a huge stage and just a sea of people? It's way more people, but it's not like packed in either. It's a little bit different.
Blue Ox was actually very striking. That was one of the bigger audiences we ever played for, but it didn't feel like a large, unengaged collection of individuals. We did play the Nashville Soccer Stadium this year, for 6 minutes, 35 seconds. That was very, not engaged, and it was very fun, but it wasn't like that kind of a thing. Now, it's almost just like having intimacy with a person. It's like some of the most, the most meaningful experiences that you'll ever have with your partner, is when it's just you two.
Yeah.
And so that goes to say that there's an energy in intimacy that is proprietary to intimacy alone. And so the more intimate of a venue that you have, and the more love and connection that can be made, it's more like that feeling.
Sure. Is it harder to play with smaller ones just because is it harder to get the crowd going, the way you need it to? If you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's not actually. It's like, it's the kind of thing too, like what I learned how to play and perform in honky tonks on Broadway in Nashville.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of ways to play music and a lot of ways to perform music. And there is a certain way about playing where it's like there are ways to bring a room to your attention, and get everyone on the same page. And
that's something you get better at over time, I imagine.
Yeah, you get more integrated with it, but it is also just a thing where it's like either you do it or you don't. You're not. Sure. That doesn't mean anything. Like a great musician doesn't necessarily have to be flamboyantly extroverted or alpha male.
Sure.
Or in anything that is like.
You can capture a room in different ways.
In any way, really. Yeah. Any way that is truly you. As long as you're being truly yourself, I think that's a good thing to start compounding your experience from.
So I guess I want to know about that. The brief history of yours, and I'm summarizing super quick here, is you grew up in Nashville. You started busking when you were really, really young, and then you got a gig playing, several times a week for roughly 3 years with a big band down there, playing a lot of covers. But none of that was like your music, right? You were playing guitar, and now you sing in it's a whole band, but the performance name is Daniel Donato. So you developed your own sound at some point. When was it that you kind of went off on your own and started playing your own music more?
24. I think I was 23 or 24.
So not that crazy long ago, because you're 27?
27 now. Yeah, it's not long ago. Whatever that means.
Did you start with singing right away as well, or was it straight guitar at first? Like, kind of how did it unfold?
I've always kind of sang, but I never I was never tasked with being the singer in any way, and it was never something that the thing about playing in Nashville is like if you get known as a guitar player, that's what you get hired to do. And so I got hired to do that, and so the concept, and I was always co-writing songs with people through publishers I knew and doing all that. And it was really a bad experience for a number of years. The thing about Nashville is like there's pick your archetype of success kind of a thing, and if be that guy or be that girl, and like, well, what if I'm not that guy and I don't write songs like that guy and I don't wear wallet chains like that guy and I don't want to have like a wireless mic and like get everyone to clap on 2 and 4 like that guy? Like, what if I'm not that guy? But then they're like, well, good luck with your songs, I guess. And really, like, that was kind of the experience. Like, if I'm being brusque about it.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, fine. Like, screw you guys. I guess I'm just gonna leave Nashville. Like, not focus on playing on Broadway, because I don't want to play. I don't want to get Venmo'd $20 to play your favorite country song for the rest of my life.
Do you feel like you were plateauing at that point in time?
Well, you inevitably are. So, like, the thing about the Muse is like, if you're using your ability to be a conduit for music and to geometrically, through an energetic, electrical manner, create music for people to experience in a place of space and time. If you're doing that in a manner where you're doing it just to make money, and you're doing it just to play covers, and you're doing it, that's totally fine. That's totally cool. But you have to be honest with yourself and realize that there is a limit to that. And are you happy with that limit?
Do you think there's a space to do both, though? Yeah, like, for a time being, right? Because a lot of times when people try to go off on their own in their own creative endeavor, they're not really making money doing that yet. So you kind of, what I mean? You're doing the gigs you don't necessarily want to do to get paid, while you're kind of finding time for the other thing. And
trust me, I did it for years. So there's this kind of a thing, though, where it's like, when you're playing on like a strip, and it's like, you're kind of just leveraging all the pool based on like what is local to the town. So like, nobody's really coming to like see you, and that was the thing that was so special about me playing at Roberts. In that band that was down there, it was like, Roberts is the black sheep of Broadway, where it's a very old traditional country music honky tonk. It's the only one left in all of Nashville, and it's one of the oldest standing buildings down there, and it's the oldest run bar down there, honky tonk rather. And then this band never really conformed in any way to like playing the newer songs, so you kind of had to be an individual in some artistic manner, and that was what I loved. I really loved the feeling of people coming from Oshkosh to Nashville to come see us every Thanksgiving, or people coming up from Florida after their kids, graduated for a trip to come see us. And I loved that feeling. And there was an artistic individuality about it, but I did realize that, and so there's nothing wrong with playing covers, by the way, what I'm talking about. But I'm saying, like, if that's all you do, and you're doing at this level that's like bar band, like, you can't do that forever. At least I can't. That was one of my biggest fears. I'm just way too ambitious. I'm not saying ambition's good.
Well, yeah, I mean, it can definitely kill you and make you not have any energy for anything. And sometimes there is a lot of people that find that if they make their passion a career and they really put everything into it like that it takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Because now you have to be able to produce, to a certain degree, or you have to reach these different goals in this timeline to just pay your bills. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it can take all that out of us. But I think it's time to get to our first song break. We're talking about early Daniel, which really wasn't that long ago. I think about like me, I opened my shop 8.5 years ago. So you would have still been back in Nashville at that point in time, and things have changed so much.
I was.
What's one of the earlier songs that people can find on YouTube? If they Google search and try to find it, they could play right now. What's one of the earlier songs that you put out?
I would just YouTube it. I mean, there's a lot of live stuff of me. But then my early record EP was like Broke Down, off I think it was off a EP called Starlight.
Broke Down was the song, or Starlight was the song?
Broke Down. Starlight is a lyric from a song called Love Is Gone. Always Been a Lover. Those would be 3 good ones to throw in for the early Daniel.
Who helped make that? Did you? Because you're kind of at the younger age where realistically, there's a lot of people that are just using GarageBand type software to put out like early stuff. How did you put that first out? That was never my trip.
I always like doing. I love doing demos and shit like that on GarageBand and Logic, not GarageBand. And But when it comes to like put out a record, I like to have an engineer who's like a masterful professional.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that's the way that you need to go. But a lot of times younger people are so eager. You know what I mean? They just want to put something out into the world when it's definitely better to hold off and get it to be at least what is your best at that moment in time before you put it out.
It really can.
Let's get to Broke Down.
Let's do it. Yeah.
On with the stakes, seems to be that I'm broke down.
Thank you so much for that tune. Like I said, I got to sit and I listened to a bunch of your live performances. I just put YouTube, and I didn't watch YouTube on my phone when I drove all the way here, but I did listen through some of the performances, and it was kind of cool because it took me right back to where it was at Blue Ox when I got to watch you perform. I could kind of like feel all of that. That being said, I saw like you got a whole crew with you these days, right? And a lot of the people, it seems like it's all the same people as it was this summer. How did the crew behind you, how did the band all kind of come together, the people you have now?
Really cosmically, in a very nice synchronized manner that was like probably geometrically set forth on a timeline that was, you know, one I wasn't aware of until it happened. And then it felt very correct when I became aware of it aloofly. You know, so I didn't go to college. I got into every college I wanted to get into, but I, in my unconscious, knew that that was not my trip. And so I stayed in Nashville and I played down at Roberts and was like this really well-known local house band that had been playing in town since '83. And all of these really well-established studio guitar players would play in that band. And it was kind of this platform and a pedestal to get you the correct resume that you would need for an elevated studio career in Nashville. And that's really what I thought I wanted to do. So I want to play on every #1 country record. You know, and right when I got that gig, I realized that my trip was a little bit different than that. But anyways, that was me playing with the Don Kelly Band. And, you know, so I start doing that when I'm 17. And then at 18, randomly one day, this kid named Stuart, I think it was Copeland or something. No, that Stuart Copeland is the drummer from the Police. Stuart something. His dad produced Harper Valley PTA, and he was trying to make like this record label and form a band, and you know, so he was like, "Hey, come down to my house. We're gonna jam with some musicians, and you know, I'll pay you $50. We'll buy you pizza. We'll have fun, smoke some weed, whatever." And I go over, and Noah, who's on drums in Cosmic Country, and then Nathan, who's on keys in Cosmic Country and guitar and vocals, they were there. It was weird, and we met that day. We jammed for 2 hours, and then I never saw them again until last year when I realized that our houses were less than a mile apart from each other.
Oh, wow.
You know.
Yeah,
randomly.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. Yeah. And it was just like, hey, you know, my band isn't really doing what I need it to do, and I knew it, and let's find another band, you know. And then so we all jammed, and again, like I remember when we jammed in their basement the first time, we all kind of just looked at each other, and we were aware that there was a variable within the energy that was dissimilar from other experiences. So there was this lack of continuity in a way that was pleasing, in a way that was an appreciated phenomenon. And that's cool. That's that kind of intuitive spark that's worth following. That's that kind of thing that like why it pays to explore into the depths of your feeling in your unconscious mind. Will, who plays bass in Cosmic Country, we started playing together on my birthday last year, April 6th. But I didn't know this, you know, before April 6th, but apparently Will had been hitting me up for like a couple of years to like jam with me, you know, on social media, but I just never got back to him. I never saw it. You know, and just right away, like I remember he pulled out the upright bass and he pulled out his Fender P bass that he made himself. I was like, I love this guy. Like, and just the way his hands sound on the strings, he's just perfect. He's my favorite bass player. And truly, like everyone in this band is like my favorite, like drummer, my favorite keys player. You know, Nathan perfectly, he's like if Chuck Leavell grew up in a way that was authentically gospel and then went to a music college and completely downloaded every piece of harmonic knowledge that you could ever need in a useful and non-useful capacity, you know? And it's like same with Noah on drums, who pulls out all of these Copeland polyrhythms and the intensities of Tool, and then can lay back and hit the pocket stuff just like Zigaboo, and then does Bonham, and then you can bring it down. You can do the Willie Cantu country Buck Owens stuff, just all of it, you know. And we can really go everywhere, and that's actually part of the problem is sometimes that we can go everywhere. And,
you got to rein it in.
You got to rein it in. That was actually one of the first things Will said after we played. I think that was the first thing he actually said was, hey, he said, we got a bucking bronco on our hands.
Yeah, well, I mean, that even happened at Blue Ox where you guys were playing way over your time. And people are like, dude, you guys got to go. You're supposed to play on the other stage in like 15 minutes and you're still here. Like, you got to go. But everyone was just vibing and having a good time. I'm curious, who does what kind of role outside of like the music? Because you do a lot of things. As you kind of grow in your career, eventually you get to a point where you have to relinquish some control into different things. Like right now, I'm here because I'm paying an employee to run my store for me.
Yeah.
Right? So in order to be able to do all the things you want to do, people kind of have to help out with various parts. So what other things, as far as the band goes, kind of who does what?
Yeah, relinquishing, or like delegating.
Yeah.
We're still building our team. I actually just signed my first record deal on last Tuesday.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's really awesome. I'm the first artist on the label, and it's a very special team of people.
Is that pretty under like wraps talking about it, or is that something you want to expand upon?
Retrace Records, Eric Eisner and Ben Gordon, who are they've seen some road.
Yeah.
And they are helping us to create the world that Cosmic Country needs, in terms of recorded music and touring enterprise and infrastructure with team and all that. But no, we have business management. We have Ant Bratton over here. He does our videos and our photos. Joe Lentini, our road manager, does all things road managing, which is an expansive bandwidth of topics to cover. Easton Adcock records all of our Nug shows for us and edits them down and puts them on. So there is CJ Strock over at Mint Talent Group and Jesse Ravelis and then everyone who's underneath them. There's a lot. There's a lot going on. And then there's me, and like I do a lot and there's my muse, and then there's, it is a job that exists outside of time.
Yeah.
So that's why it's more than 24/7.
Yeah. But at the same time, I like to tell people that I work all the time, but I don't work at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I may be spending 16 hours in one given day working on all these things. But really, if I worked a regular job, I would have been 8 hours at that job. And then I would have spent the next 8 hours working on my hobby anyways.
Yeah.
So it's the same amount of time, and thankfully with me, I have a bunch of different avenues that I can spend my time. So I never really get burnt out on anything. Do you get a little bit burnt out by the end of like a tour or like, playing guitar exclusively? A lot of times people kind of go through different chapters of life. You know what I mean? But you've never hit a wall with guitar in that kind of a way?
I'm sure I have, maybe more than I give myself credit for, but no.
Sure.
No, I love it. No, I don't ever get, that's the thing. That's also why you could probably ask anyone who's on tour with me why I'm probably sometimes hard to tour with, because I don't get tired.
You're the energy behind everything.
I'm not doing any hard drugs, like aside from cannabis or psilocybin sometimes. I don't drink a lot. I just quit nicotine.
Well, good for you.
Thanks.
Your future self will thank you.
It will.
The culture is a little bit different coming up right now within music, and it's the same way with business and everything else. It's funny. I just spoke at the university in my town to some entrepreneur students or whatever, and what they teach in college is so not accurate, in my opinion, to today's world with entrepreneurship, because what's available to you changes so drastically fast. How is it right now with trying to come up in like a country type space where I feel like people your age group, our general age group, most people are going into the pop, hip hop kind of realm. Country, it seems to be a much wider age range of listenership as well as musicianship. How does it feel coming up being younger? What tools were available to you for you to be able to kind of grow your career?
I'd say the tools, like YouTube. And the overall connectivity of consciousness in a technological manner. And so when you have an inherent community that is activated on the global level 24/7, you inherit the order of knowledge, the order of networking potential, and the ability to garner and develop a story and tell it in an honest way. And then that gives you the opportunity to bring people value in a way that is hopefully tangible and transcendent. And so with that, though, you get a lot of darkness, as we can see now. You can get a lot of, new versions of dopamine.
Yeah.
that the brain is not used to receiving, or it's like, and then different attention spans, and then different social virtues and different social cues and things you can say or can't say, or don't know if I can say that or feel this way. And
there's good or bad with everything.
As above, so below.
Yeah.
It's probably that is at the base level of anything that is tangible or intangible in this domain of space and time. There's as above, so below.
But I think younger people have that advantage over a lot of the older generation as far as giving them leverage to come up in a space. You know, I see it in the skateboarding world. That's just kind of my space, is in the skateboarding world, because that's my business, right? Is more than ever, more and more really niche brands are popping up. There's way more brands than there were when I was a kid, right? When you played Tony Hawk Underground, you literally picked one of 4 pro teams to like join in the game, because there's only so many styles and spaces you fit. And now with the internet, they realize I don't need to market to a huge audience. You know, before in Nashville, you would have said, well, I could play at one of these locations and I have to get one of those crowds to be able to buy into what I'm doing and enjoy it. Instead, now it's the entire world. And if you had 0.01% of the entire world, you would have a massive audience. So I think it allows people to be a little bit more free in like being 100% themselves. You just have to be patient until the people find you. You know, that actually appreciate what your self is. So let's get to our second song break. What's your favorite song to play on stage? Like which one do you look forward to the most right now off the top of your head?
That's released right now?
That you play on every tour. Like which one? Yeah, released, not something that's unreleased.
I love Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Oh, the like 9 Minutes of Wonder? Yeah. I love that one too.
I love that song.
Let's get to it. you get, and I run into the same things all the time.
I'm surprised.
And I'll see, I'll just see, it's between the business and everything, too. I'll see a message, and in that moment, I'm like, I need to respond to this, but I'm just busy. And then it just gets drowned, because by the end of that weekend, now it's way far down, and it just gets totally lost.
Who is it? Cal Newman? Is that the guy that talks about the workflow? I think it's Cal Newman.
I'm not sure.
For a substantial period of workflow, like you don't want to, because when you're working on something, that is a conversation with you and yourself.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to end this conversation with going to a text conversation with somebody else or a version of somebody else when you're texting, you're immediately kind of perturbing the flow of what it is that you're doing, and that's something on tour that is like really hard, So like a few weeks ago, I would just be like vaping in the back and just like constantly texting or messaging people. And there's like, on a base level, this is not good for me in my music, because like the soil in which that I am growing from right now feels frenetic and distorted and not focused.
Yeah.
And our whole society right now, in terms of how we communicate and spread content and media and news and truths and lies, is like through this constant stream of just always being connected to something. But as above, so below, because when you're connected into this external world, you're losing a connection to the internal world, which is where everything's born. I think.
How do you respect your own boundaries with that in organization then? So that way you don't go crazy when you need some time for yourself. Because I imagine even just 1 week, or if you ever take a week, even just a few days of not looking at your phone, it's how do you even catch back up? How do you keep track of things?
Social media. When I get home, I don't do social media for the first 24 hours. I just don't even go on. And it's not even like it's hard for me. I just don't care. I just want to get home. I just bought a house. Like I want to.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a huge thing for a young person to afford. And I'm not like trying to talk down on your age, but it is really hard for anyone in their 20s to buy a property now. Thankfully, I have one too. I bought the house I grew up in, which is like the coolest because my kids climb the same trees that I used to climb and stuff. It's super dope. But no, that's huge. A lot of time touring musicians and stuff, you have to give up so much of what normal life looks like for your age group. All your peers that that you grew up with, they have this stable job, right? And they're buying their house and they're settling down there, whatever. And you're doing stuff. You can't. It's hard to do that.
Well, that's always been my, since I was 14, I started saving my money, and I was like, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and then like macro and microeconomics and like very, rudimentary financial understanding. I was just always fascinated by it to some degree. I always wanted to buy a house. I don't know, and so this year, the situation came about where it made sense. And I was like, I think I'm going to move out of the city actually. And because like I'm touring all the time, and I'm probably never going to stop touring, hopefully, like knock on wood. And when I come home, I don't want to be distracted. I actually want to be like a Zen cosmic country wizard and just like go out and live in the woods and like.
No, I find that's the best way for me to recharge too.
Yeah.
Is to go out in the woods where I literally am removed from my phone. I can't respond to things even if I wanted to.
See, I have Wi-Fi at the house. I can fortunately do that, but
sure.
I can go outside and there's no natural light or there's no artificial light remotely near where I live on my house, on my street or my property. So I can just like sit on my porch and like look at the stars for like an hour.
Yeah.
And that's like what humans have done longer than they haven't. And then if you're talking about processing energies and frequencies from your unconscious mind, especially of all this amazing information and experience I get to gather out here on the road, I need a time to go and clear out that desktop and put it into its respective files, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
So being home is it, man. So like when I'm home now, I'm home.
Well, and the internet just like shows you all these shiny, bright things that want to grab your attention, and it makes us kind of forget about, well, what brought people joy 500 years ago, because it would probably still bring us joy now. And it's just a different joy. But I found as I've gotten busier and busier and busier, I just have all these different things that I'm doing, which I love doing all of them. But the best way for me to recenter and really enjoy where my life is when I go outside and I can just breathe fresh air. I'll send you pictures of what my dining room looks like. I have 85 houseplants. It's a jungle, dude. It's ridiculous. But that fresh air, I feel like my air is way cleaner in my home.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I have plants in my house too. It's for real.
Yeah.
It's for real. Like you need to have I mean, it makes sense too. It's just by physics. If you have nature in the house, it's going to feel more natural.
Yeah. I'll send you, because that's where I record a lot of my interviews. It's gotten ridiculous. I have all these philodendrons that are 20 feet long. I
go hard on the philodendron.
So they're like draped along my ceiling.
For sure.
Yeah, my partner, my girlfriend, she doesn't like it, but it's a little too intense for her, but I love it. Anyways, so I want to know, how have your goals kind of changed? You just said that you want to be touring forever, which is a lot. You know, I talked to this bass player, Ian Martin Allison. I don't know if you know him, but his work's awesome. I'll send him your way. But he was touring with Kelly Clarkson and a bunch of people. He was like full-time touring for a long time. And he found that that's not really what he wanted long-term anyways. What he really wanted was to be able to have a family and support it by playing the bass guitar. And it was like, okay, well then touring isn't what I want to do, because I want to be home, right?
How are you? Session work.
Right. So, and that's primarily what he does at this point. He plays shows in Minneapolis and stuff too. But so what were your goals kind of at the beginning when you first kind of went off your own, you know, say 5 years ago or whatever, and how have they kind of changed as you've matured and experienced some of those things?
The goals that when I was playing down on Broadway in the Don Kelly band, I really wanted to be like a great session guitar player and play on people's records and maybe tour in their bands and do all that. But then there was this need for me to like, I started writing my own songs, and I wanted to tell my own story. And it wasn't even like a want. It was like I really had to. Like I really had to. And I don't know why that happened.
Yeah.
And so it's like this thing I just have to get out of me. Like my mind doesn't stop. Like I write like 5 set lists a day. You know, I'm like always thinking about ways to expand the songs and loop them in together. I just feel like this platform that I'm building with this band and that we're building, because I and we are the same thing if you have a good team.
Yeah. Well, you all succeed together.
Yeah.
You know, as your music grows and is working, they get to play in front of other crowds. They're in a position to be able to write more music themselves and have their, you know what I mean? Everything wins together for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like tonight, we're going to do songs. Everyone sings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do our own songs. And that's what, you know, there's nothing more cosmic than community.
Yeah.
You know, that's what country is a community too, you know, so that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, I really just the scale of what I want to do has changed since I first started going down the cosmic country lost highway. Really, you know, that's just the scale of what I want.
As in, like, you want to play in front of larger crowds and you want to play internationally and you want to reach music to different places kind of a way.
Yeah. Tour Europe. I want to play the Ryman in Nashville. I want to grow. I want this whole trip. I want to grow our trip and, you know, and be one of the last carnivals in the West.
Well, and it's cool to take music that isn't heard in other areas. I've traveled, I think I've been in 9 countries maybe now, but I love traveling. And the culture and stuff is so much different over there. And they have a lot of American music in a lot of these countries. All the way you go to Thailand and the radio's American music. It's crazy. Yeah. But I bet they haven't heard Cosmic Country. So it's exciting to see where that can go. What challenges, like when you were growing up before, like you were so focused, like deep dive, I need to learn how to play this guitar the absolute best that I can. You plateau, but you never really are done, obviously, growing, right? What things within your musical career do you still see as that's what you're working on the most right now, has the biggest area for growth for you?
Like songwriting and composition and arrangement.
How do you learn more of that type of stuff? Because YouTube can teach you to play this note at this time, but learning nuance and how to put all that type of stuff together, how do you go about learning and getting better? I mean, you just practice, I suppose, but do you draw inspiration from other people to try this, that, and whatever? Or how does it kind of work out?
The whole process, how it's always worked for me, is that there's information intake, which is done in an inspired way. You know, I don't know what it is. What inspires me? You know, might be the theme from the original Alice in Wonderland. You know, over the hill or over there where people do not see. Whoa. You know, why does that just give me goosebumps?
Yeah.
You know, there's maybe a lyrical note on how to use words and how do I take my feeling and use that. And so it's a lot of information intake. I'm pretty organized with it. Like I like to write down what I listen to and like what I liked about it. And then I like to create from the things that inspire me. And that's how it was with guitar. I would learn something and then I would create something. So it's an as above, so below. It's a non-creative intake with a creative return. So you get the rep of learning something non-creatively, but then you get the fruit of blossoming something that creatively comes from you.
Is that kind of what happens when you hit creative blocks as well? Because when I'm painting, if I can't I'm stuck on this thing. I just kind of started another thing, and it tends to bleed me back into the first thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the term, creative block is, you could evolve that to where it's just like you've exhausted a certain form of perception.
Sure.
Right? But there's limitless perception. Because everything's relative, So if there's 500 people in the room tonight, there are technically 500 shows happening.
Yeah. That's one way to look at it. I've never thought of it that way.
I didn't either till this year, but it's true.
Yeah.
Even just on a level of physics, if I'm hitting a G note, my G note to me is going to sound very different to, Kelly, who's all the way in the back behind hundreds of people who are much taller than her.
Yeah.
And literally on just a physical level, the G note's going to sound different. And it might hit her because she's in a different mental space. She might not be thinking about it, So there's all kinds of different realities that are happening in what we deem as the objective. So, if you're creating and you're getting a writer's block, you've most likely just exhausted a certain kind of perception that you're operating from right now. And that's the great thing about being an ever-changing being, is that you can just go ahead and put on a new pair of Ray-Ban perception shades and see what's going on,
Yeah, well, and with Spotify and everything else on your phone, you can just hit random, and you can find new inspiration, go down a different rabbit hole. I always ask this question on the show because I think it's my favorite anyways. When you do something that you're really passionate about for a career, it's not usually money-oriented things. You don't get excited about getting promoted with this thing or whatever. And I know you have a fantastic memory because I listened to other interviews where you've mentioned your photographic memory before.
Yeah.
What was an experience you had that you're really grateful for, but it only happened because you chose music for a career?
A lot of them.
Hard to pick one.
Really. It's hard to pick one. It is. It's really hard. I think giving my younger sister an example to see that you can go out and pursue the individual and that be enough for a career. That probably on a macro perspective is something that I'm really happy that she saw was possible, and still does, because I talk to her all the time. I let her know how the shows go, what's good about them, what's dark about them, as much as I can, and she loves it, and it helps her. And she's 11, so that probably on a macro level. Yeah. And then seeing other people come to our shows that travel and wear hoodies and they have they make these, they make it's these gizmos for us, the cosmic culture.
Yeah, cool.
The fact that community can blossom from an internally driven vision. I don't know where it came from.
It's really gratifying when you created something that you meant to be for other people, and then you see how much they actually enjoy it.
It makes me realize that I am not just me.
Yeah.
Career, on the etymology of what career is, I think is interesting. So you have car, which could also mean auto, which means self. So car, auto equals self. EER means specialist in something. So you have an auctioneer.
Right.
You have a mountaineer. You have someone who's really good at hiking mountains, and they understand when there's good times to do it with climates and winds. And auctioneers, you have people who can talk in that way, and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4, and they can control the room. There's all kinds of ears. So you have a self-professional, right? And so that's what a career is. And so I think at the end of the day, to me, that is more important than what I was told a career was in high school.
Yeah.
Which is very different than what the actual etymology of career means.
Yeah.
And I hated that in high school, and I proved all of my teachers wrong. And they've all reached out to me since then, and we've been on really good terms about it all.
Yeah.
And it was just there was only 2 teachers who really supported my vision to go out and play music, because I was doing really well in school. And they were like, "You're throwing your life away." I remember they called my parents, "You're throwing your life away. You can't have a career in music," was what I was told. And that is not true. Right. What that is actually some kind of projection of what someone else thinks is possible. And they're trying to impose that on your self-specialty pursuit of life.
Yeah.
But we are self-specialists. That's what our jobs should be.
Yeah.
And your career is a cosmic, eternal career that expands far outside of your clocked-in hours on the job. Your career is how you react with your family and how your people around you feel about you. Even on days where everyone's annoyed with me in the van sometimes, or I'm annoyed with everyone else. That is part of your career.
Yeah.
And so music has always been the great feminine reflector to me in my life, because music in itself, muse, IC means to take form. So the muse is a feminine form, IC, so it's this force of creation taking form in this intangible way. It's always been a reflector to me to like let me know on how I'm feeling as a person.
Yeah. Well, and your career is just supposed to be your life, right? Your career, you have to make money to be able to afford certain things. Really, nobody actually wants money. They want what money can get them, you know, but a lot of times you don't need money to get those things, right? So it's just, you have to find a way that you can be able to pay your bare minimums of the things that you actually need. But how can I spend my life doing what I want that also can fulfill that? And there's a lot of ways to do that.
Ikigai.
Right. But it's, you know, in America, it's this capitalist society where we're taught like you need to get a job that is stable, which I always hate that job, because if you work for somebody else and you think it's stable, you're wrong, because that person or that company can fire you at any given time. So that it's not as stable as you think it is. When you work for yourself, you're 1,000% in control of what's going on as far as like you can't be fired. You know, you may have to make more money going doing something else, and you have to take turns or whatever. But
all complex.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I know you have to get ready for your show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Dude, pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Where can people best go find you, follow you, listen to your music, reach out if they had further questions, because this could have gone on forever.
I know. We'll do it again.
And how can they best support you moving forward, whether it's put you on playlist or what?
Oh, yeah. Or we put every show we do out on Bandcamp and Nugs, you know, so you can go buy every show in like a multi-track. Daniel Donato or Cosmic Country in Google. My website will be the first thing that comes up. Everything's on there. Email, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, email lists, text lists, merchandise, news, updates. The podcast is on there. Everything's on there. And it's always, the Cosmic Country station is constantly putting out frequencies for you to enjoy and find value in, man. And so we're always going. So tune in.
Hopefully everyone pops on there and just sends you a message of, hey, I listened to the podcast and I was inspired by what you had to say.
Passion Pod.
Exactly.
Let's go.
What song should we play right now to end the show? How about one of your newer tracks that you put out?
Oh, Joe, what should we play?
Newer tracks?
Yeah.
Fade 11.
Oh, that's not out yet.
14 Karat Mind.
14 Karat Mind's a good one, yeah. Thank you, Joe. 14 Karat Mind is it.
Still recall the morning that I met you, standing out in front of Wilson's 5 and 9, staring through the window at the jewelry, hungry for the things you couldn't buy. And just like a fool, I thought that I could please you, and I saw you here tonight, things that shine, and I paid $7 million for a bracelet, just to satisfy your 14-karat mind. Staring at these railroad tracks in Denver, with a hurting head and half a pint of wine, and everything except my soul has been surrendered, just to satisfy your 14-karat mind. The cabin that I built in West Virginia was not enough to keep you satisfied, 'cause a man that's got a sawmill occupation can't afford to feed a rich girl's appetite. And I wonder if you're still with Willie Jackson. Sometimes I wonder if he is still alive. And you know Willie, he gave up his wife and children just to satisfy your 14-karat mind. Staring at these railroad tracks in Denver, with a hurting head and a half a pint of wine. Everything except my soul has been surrendered, just to satisfy your 14-karat mind. satisfy your fortune-carrying mind.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.